details emerged following the fatal crash that has claimed the life of Grammy-nominated R&B artist Angie Stone. According to the Alabama law enforcement agency, the Mercedes Sprinter van Stone was riding in had turned over on the roadway before being struck by an 18-wheeler. The crash happened 2 miles south of Hope Hull near mile marker 164. Now, this is just 5 miles south of the Montgomery city limits in Montgomery County. Stone had just performed in the city of Mobile on Friday night at the 2025 Grand Marshals Ball. That's according to Mobile Area Mardi Gras Association. Now, her publicist, Deborah Champagne, told WSFA that the singer was scheduled to meet in Maryland today for a performance at the CIAA basketball tournament. Stone's publicist remembers her as an honest, talented person that left a big impact on the music industry. There were 9 total passengers in the van, and Stone has been the only reported fatality.
Stone's publicist, Deborah Champagne, tells me the singer was leaving a performance when the crash happened. According to the Alabama law enforcement agency, it was on I-65 around 7 a.m. And the crash did block the left northbound lane and the left southbound lanes, but Aaliyah troopers declared all lanes open and the scene clear at 11 a.m. today. I'm told that multiple people were also in the van you saw in those pictures, but the singer was the only person to have died.
We came up to a truck with a trailer and its flashers were on, so we slowed down some, and that's when I noticed there was an overturned vehicle in the fast lane. And it looked like it just happened. I pulled over and put my flashers on, and I told my daughter to stay in the car, and I ran over. It was a van, and I ran over, and there were so many people in this van, and they were just trying to get out. And I asked if they'd called the cops, and they said, we're just trying to get out. And they were helping this woman out off the side of the van, and I grabbed her hand and I helped her get down, and she seemed out of it, and I was holding her hand and she was wobbling around, and I said, baby, you gotta sit down.
You shot straight, but you shot late. Hi, Lim. This is the Rundown Podcast.
I'm gonna give you the rundown.
And since the death of Angie Stone, the funeral is now over, and everybody has said their last goodbyes to Miss Stone. And now people are still left with questions, still wondering what really happened to Angie, because we're still unclear. There's a lot of conspiracy theories going around. There's a lot of different opinions, and people still, unclear. Now, they gave us 2 different times that the accident supposedly happened. Right when it first broke, this news of Angie having this accident out there on the highway, coming from this Mardi Gras ball out there in Alabama, right? Almost going on 4:30 in the morning. Her Sprinter van, her tour van, with 9 people in it, all together, starts overturning out of nowhere, right? Then they say that a big rig, an 18-wheeler, right, runs over the van, colliding with it, hitting it, further doing damage. And this is how Angie Stone lost her life, right? She was the only one out of all those 9 people to lose her life in that situation that they told us when it first broke. Now it's a lady on TikTok who's telling a eerie similar story to exactly what happened, and basically not saying Angie's name in the story at all, but she's, reliving and retelling the events of the Angie Stone crash, and saying how she came upon this crash while she was traveling on the interstate that fateful morning, right? And obviously this is the same crime scene that she shows at the end of her video with the same 18-wheeler, CRST trucking big rig that was parked on the side of the opposite oncoming traffic of the interstate as it tried to dodge whatever or, hit whatever that it came to a stop to. And this is the same footage of the Angie Stone crash, but she said she wouldn't be showing the vehicle, meaning the Sprinter van that was overturned. And many people feel like this woman's, testimony is true, and she's definitely talking about the Angie Stone accident, as we know. And she said somebody did lose their life, and the only person who lost their life was Angie Stone. So it makes you wonder, the story that she's telling. We finna break it down and see, that a lot of things don't make sense. But, she claims that she was on the side of that interstate that morning. And when this happens, she tells us that she helps Angie out of the Sprinter van. But she's not saying Angie's name. But whoever this lady she helped out of the Sprinter van, right? People are assuming she's talking about Angie. Now, she might be talking about a whole different lady that was in the Sprinter van. There's a bunch of women in the Sprinter van, right? But she never said that the one she helped out was Angie. But, many people are saying that she insinuated, that this could possibly be the woman that she helped. And then all of the time that she's telling the story, she just forgets about the lady that she helped out the van and starts talking about how an 18-wheeler not hit her, right? Didn't run over her, but it brushed over her, right? Swiped over her. But, I find all that very suspicious, because if you get hit by an 18-wheeler, brushing up against you, rubbing up against you, scraping up against you, you're going to have some type of damage from that collision. But anyway, let's get into what she's saying on this video, because she's telling us she helped somebody out of the van, right? After the van turned over. It looked like it had just happened, is what she stated in her video. So, could this not be true information? Let's see. Let's get into it. Run it.
I just got hit by an 18-wheeler on the side of the interstate. I have pieces of the fender in my hair. I have oil all over my body. I'm gonna clean this up and I'm gonna get back to telling the story, and I'll show you the footage. After driving the 6 hours home, showering, and processing it all, here's the story. About 4 a.m. on Saturday morning, me and my daughter were driving to Charleston, South Carolina for her Sweet 16 birthday getaway. We came up to a truck with a trailer and its flashers were on, so we slowed down some, and that's when I noticed there was an overturned vehicle in the fast lane. And it looked like it just happened. I pulled over, I put my flashers on, and I told my daughter to stay in the car, and I ran over. It was a van, and I ran over, and there were so many people in this van, and they were just trying to get out. And I asked if they'd called the cops, and they said, we're just trying to get out. And they were helping this woman out off the side of the van, and I grabbed her hand and I helped her get down, and she seemed out of it, and I was holding her hand and she was wobbling around, and I said, baby, you gotta sit down. And then the next thing I know, I flew and I fell down to the ground, and it felt like something not ran over me but brushed over me. Like something just swiped over my body, and I got up and I could hear screaming, and I just focused in on one screaming, and it was my daughter, and all I could do was run across the highway and tell her to get back in the car. She had to move the car because if somebody else hit us, it could hit her. So she moved the car farther up the interstate, and I called 911, and they said they were on their way. And then all I could think to do was get to my daughter, and that's all I could do in that time. And when I was walking to my daughter, we're really running, the best that I can do. I was in so much pain. My chest felt like an elephant was sitting on it. My legs were so hurt and sore, and I looked up, and there was an 18-wheeler that had crossed the median into oncoming traffic, and I knew that's what hit me and ran over, and brushed over me was the 18-wheeler. And my daughter's freaking out. She'd already called my husband by then and my father-in-law, and I just told her, we've got to get to the hospital. I can't breathe. It was so hard to breathe. I'm gonna post a video of the 18-wheeler after I left the hospital, driving back through to get to my husband and my son. I will not be posting the vehicle in the video because somebody did pass away. They did. And I won't be posting that for respect for their family. I'm sore, I'm bruised on the right side of my body. I'm very stiff everywhere. But I will keep you guys updated. And the video is gonna come at the end, okay? Hug your family tight. Hug your family tight. Bye.
Now, when the public was first told about the passing of Miss Angie Stone, they told us that the accident happened around 4:25 a.m. on that interstate. And Miss Stone was the only one that lost her life. And then they come back and say that it happened at 7 a.m. And I'm like, okay, so which time did it actually occur? And then they finally settled with the 4:25 a.m. As they first said in the initial report. But I'm not sure as to why that news station said 7 a.m. is the time that the accident occurred. Now, they were initially saying, also as reported, that she was headed from Alabama, from that Mardi Gras Marshall Ball, right? And going to a CIAA basketball tournament or championship game or whatever it was, to also be the singer there. I'm guessing she was going to sing the national anthem. And that's when it was announced that she wouldn't be showing up because of what had happened earlier that morning, right, with the crash. And there was a discrepancy with that as well, because they said in other reports that she was headed to Atlanta. And that's where she stayed, in Georgia. So was she headed home, or was she headed to Baltimore, Maryland? As many reports first said she was headed from Alabama to Baltimore, Maryland. Even her publicist, Deborah Champagne, told many news outlets that this is definitely where she was headed, to this CIAA basketball game, right, in Baltimore, Maryland, for a gig that she had there. So, I mean, it's very, very puzzling that she was going to be going to two different places on the itinerary, and people are confused about the actual direction to where Miss Stone was supposed to be traveling, Atlanta or Baltimore, Maryland. Now, she starts off by saying that she was hit by an 18-wheeler on the side of the interstate. And she also said that she had pieces of the 18-wheeler's fender, you know, right there by the front grill on the side right there in the front of the 18-wheeler. She said she had the fender pieces in her hair. If that's the case, then your head should have been knocked off. How you get fender pieces in your head without being hit or struck or ran over, for that matter, by 18-wheeler? So that right there didn't make sense at all. And then she said she had oil all over. How did you get oil on you? I mean, that's just like saying when you said about the fender pieces in your hair. How would you get these things on you from this 18-wheeler if it brushed over you or swiped over you, right? Without you being hurt, without you being injured in no shape, form, or fashion. Some type of little band-aid you got on your head, but what is that from? I mean, come on, you can't tell me 18-wheeler just put a little small scratch right there on your forehead without taking your whole head off some type of way. So it just doesn't seem, realistic from what, she's already saying in the beginning of the story. So she tells us that her and her daughter are driving to Charleston, South Carolina for her daughter's sweet 16 birthday party celebration. Okay. So, and on the way, she sees this truck with a trailer and its flashers on. So she slows down. She says she sees a vehicle overturned in the fast lane. All right. And she says she puts her flashers on. She slows down for this truck that's already there. Keep that in mind. Right. So truck already there with a trailer with the flashers on. All right. So I'm assuming this has to be a 18-wheeler, right? Oh, what kind of truck was this? Was it a Ford truck, a Dodge truck, or, a 18-wheeler truck? She never specified what type of truck, other than it was a truck, a trailer, and it had its flashers on. So that's what alerted her to slow down as well. So if the truck had its flashers on already, that means that this truck had already came upon the wreck before, right? Courtney did, and who knows how long. But she says it looked like it just happened, and it happened to be a van, right, full of people that she claims that she's seen in this van that was overturned in the fast lane. Now, with the people already being on the scene that was driving the truck with the trailer, with the flashers already on, she didn't specify if they were out there helping the people get out the van or not. She just said she put her flashers on, right? Told her daughter, not to get out the car, and lock the doors. She'll be right back. And ran over there to go help the people in the van. And she said it was people helping people off the side of the van already. And she put her hand up there, and a woman, grabbed her hand. She helped this woman down off the van. Okay? So this is what she's telling us and insinuating that many people have, ran with the idea that this could be Angie Stone that this lady is referencing. Now, I found it very appalling that Courtney would put herself and her daughter's life in danger by pulling over, getting out of the vehicle. And she ran over there. She said she had to cross the highway, is what she said. She had to cross the freeway to get back over to her daughter when her daughter started screaming. But, okay, so if you was doing all that, right, and you seen the people already helping people off the side of the van, why did you need to go help? You could have called the cops if you were that concerned if the cops were on the way or not. But, what puzzles me is that, when you say that you helped the woman get down off the van, and you tell her, hey, you're kind of out of it. You saying she was wobbling around, and then you tell her, hey, baby, you got to sit down. And that's the last we heard of the conversation with you and that individual, this lady. You say who you helped down, and people are associating with this lady with Angie Stone. Now, did she sit down or didn't she sit down? You didn't specify that, Courtney. Now, if you're skipping right into, and all of a sudden, right? What you mean all of a sudden? You get hit by an 18-wheeler? Or did the lady who you just helped down also, who you told her to sit down because she was out of it and wobbly, did she get hit? You never specified if she got hit by the 18-wheeler that you got hit by. You got hit by 18-wheeler, but it ain't hit you. It just brushed over you, swiped over you, right? Got oil on you, got fender pieces in your hair. But what about the lady who you helped off the side of the van? Did she get hit by the 18-wheeler, Courtney? We need to definitely know that information because you left that totally out. You skipped over the lady after that part, and you didn't talk about her no more until the end of the story. You said somebody lost their life, and the only person who lost their life was Angie. So we need some more clarification on if the person, this lady you helped off the side of the van, was Angie Stone or not. You ought to know who Angie Stone is by now. All the reports are out there, the images are out there, concert videos and everything. So this lady when you see her again. If that was Angie, you should definitely, clarify. But now you can't verify nothing because she has erased her TikTok as we speak. It's gone, depleted, deleted. And what's really going on, you guys? So check this out. She says after she helped the lady off the side of the van, she told the lady she needed to sit down, right? She was wobbly. She was out of it. Sit down, honey. And then the next thing she knew, she flew. That's what she's saying. She's saying she flew like a bird, right? And she fell down. Felt like something brushed over, or swiped over, right? And then that's when she said she heard a bunch of screaming. She got up and she realized that once she, paid close attention to who was screaming, she noticed it was her daughter. And she ran across the highway, told her daughter to get back in the car and to move the vehicle up the interstate on the side of the road some more, because somebody could also hit them. I'm thinking that's what she's, saying about their vehicle. Like their vehicle that her daughter's in could be hit as well. So that's what I found very suspicious. And that could very well be what happened. But, I find it very, strikingly similar and eerie to the same story that's concerning Angie Stone and her crash. Now, something else that caught my attention is when she said that she told her daughter, who just turned 16, to move that vehicle that they were in farther up the interstate. Now, would you trust this child who just turned 16 to move a vehicle at a car accident scene, a bad accident, right? Somebody lost their life, and you're asking her to move that vehicle and possibly put herself in danger? Wow, that's crazy to me. But anyway, she ran across the highway, she said. That was another thing that put herself in danger. And then she said she, obviously runs back across the highway, calls 911, and they said that they are already on their way. So was 911 already called before, she got to the scene? Like I said, the truck with the trailer could have called 911 already. The people who was already helping the people off the side of the van had, possibly called 911 in the first place anyway. But now she's stating she had to call 911 again for the simple fact that she was hit by an 18-wheeler. Now, when she said she heard her daughter scream after this 18-wheeler flew over her, right? Brushed over her. She says that she got up, so obviously she wasn't hurt. And her daughter is screaming because of what? She seen this 18-wheeler hit Angie Stone? Is that why she was screaming? Or because she felt like her mom had got wiped out by the 18-wheeler? But surely not, because her mom said she jumped up. She got up off the ground after that, right? Ran across the highway and told her to get back in the car. And matter of fact, moved the car up the interstate. And then she said all she could think about was getting to her daughter right after that 911 call. So she's describing going back to the daughter again, right? To make sure she's safe. So that seems like a lot of going back and forth that, this mother did, crossing that highway, like she said, just to get to the daughter. All right. So, I found that kind of odd that, she kept going back and forth, telling her daughter what to do and going to finally, shelter her daughter, protect her daughter from what could possibly, hit them on the freeway. Now, when she said she was going to post the footage of the 18-wheeler, right, that she seen that had crossed the median and onto oncoming traffic, when she looked up and finally seen what it was that swiped over her, right, that brushed over her, this 18-wheeler. Wow. Man, that was a close death, wasn't it? And this lady who you helped off the van, no more mention of her, huh? That's very suspicious. Now, she says that the 18-wheeler was still there after she left the hospital, getting checked out after this accident, this Sprinter van of Angie Stone's that had turned over and took her life, is what they told us. Then they come and say that a big rig then hits the Sprinter van colliding with it. And that's what caused the fatality, right? But now we hear this lady say that Angie was still alive. She insinuates that nobody was dead at that point, right? She helped the lady off of the van. And this is what people are saying, could be definitely Angie Stone. So when Courtney, the witness, who had to slow down because she was traveling to Charleston, South Carolina with her daughter at 4:25 in the morning, when she comes up to this accident in the middle of the freeway, I-65 to be exact, she sees a truck with a trailer with their flashers on, right? She slows down too. Sees this van overturned with a bunch of people in it. She puts her flashers on, pulls over, gets over to the side of the freeway, gets out and goes to help these people in the van, right? And now, that was already one wreck. That was one crash. A single vehicle crash is what they told us, right? And they're saying that the driver of that Sprinter van, Liethel, right? Liethel Carter, they're saying he fell asleep at the wheel. And I said that in my previous video, well, the only video I did on Angie Stone. I said, what if old Liethel fell asleep? Wow. What if he dozed off? And I'll be damned. That's what they're saying in the report. That the driver of that Sprinter fell asleep behind the wheel. And that's what caused that vehicle to overturn. So storytelling Courtney is telling us that that Sprinter van was overturned in the fast lane on the highway. Not over in the median, not in the grass. Obviously, it got over there once the 18-wheeler, Jared Wilkinson, once he comes through and side swipes, right? The Sprinter van that's already turned over on the highway in the fast lane. So if she helped the lady off the side of the van that's on the highway, overturned first, initially, right? Before being hit by the 18-wheeler that Jared Wilkinson is driving. And how Jared Wilkinson did not see the flashers from the truck and the trailer that was already there first. Then this lady's flashers, right, who was already there. How he not see those two vehicles with flashers on, right? It just didn't make sense for him not to slow down in order not to hit the Sprinter van that was still in the road overturned. Now, first, when they reported on it, they said that in the crash report that it was 9 injured, 0 fatality. And many people were thrown off by the 0 fatalities because thought y'all said somebody died, which was, the somebody being Angie Stone. But, that was puzzling. And then a second crash report comes out where they say 1 fatality and 3 injured. But according to the shocking details of the narrative, according to the crash report that was all summed up once the investigation was done out on the highway, it says that Unit 1, being that's the Sprinter van that Liethel Carter was driving, Unit 1 was traveling north on I-65. Driver, who was Liethel Carter of Unit 1, fell asleep while operating his vehicle, causing it to leave the road on the left shoulder and overturn when re-entering the road. Unit 1 landed on his driver's side and said it slid to a stop as shown in the diagram. And the driver of Unit 1 stated that there was something wrong with the unit because it was causing it to snatch and he had to keep adjusting the lane changing malfunction feature on Unit 1. Driver of Unit 1 also stated that he don't know what happened after about 2 hours into the drive. So, that was the narrative on what happened before the 18-wheeler even came along, okay, to even strike this Sprinter van that Liethel Carter was driving with Miss Angie Stone in the back. And now, you have the final narrative, right? The final investigation came to person flying out the broken window of that Sprinter van after being hit by the 18-wheeler. And that's what caused the fatality of that one individual, which is also known to be Angie Stone at this time. So this is what that narrative says. Unit 1 was lying on his driver's side in the middle of the northbound lanes after being involved in a rollover crash. Unit 2, which is the 18-wheeler that Jared Wilkerson was driving, was traveling north on I-65 when it struck Unit 1 around the undercarriage near the front axle. The impact caused Unit 1 to rotate counterclockwise and come to rest as shown in the diagram. Driver of Unit 1 stated that he was trying to pull passengers from the van as it was lying on its side when it was hit by Unit 2, the 18-wheeler. When Unit 2 struck Unit 1, the force lifted Unit 1 into the air, causing one of the passengers to exit the vehicle through a broken window. The passenger was pinned under Unit 1 and suffered fatal injuries during the crash. And this is what they came to a final narrative on how Angie Stone lost her life. So this seems as if Courtney, the witness, who says she helped a woman off the side of the van after that wreck, like I said, that could have been a whole totally different woman that she helped. And this narrative is saying that Angie was definitely still inside that Sprinter van when that van was struck by this 18-wheeler. Okay? Now, as far as Courtney, she did not say that she helped Angie Stone. That's why I wanted, people to understand. She never said, nobody's name. She said it was a lady, a woman, right? So it was, more women in that van than just Angie Stone. It was two sisters, I know for a fact, that was there. So maybe it was one of those sisters that she helped. But what was everybody else when this van was struck by the 18-wheeler? Because everybody else seemed to get out the way, right? Just in time. If Lietta was helping people out the van during the time, the woman claimed she was helping people out the van, right? Why come nobody else was struck by the 18-wheeler hitting the Sprinter van, causing it to turn counterclockwise? Pretty sure that was very dramatic and traumatic, right? And suspenseful to see right before your very eyes. So that was just, very immaculate, right? It was a blessing nobody else got killed in that crash right there, in that collision that caused Angie to allegedly lose her life. Being pinned, it says that she was pinned right under the Unit 1, and that's the Sprinter van that they were in, and suffered fatal injuries during the crash. Like, that mean that she flew out the window, then she was pinned under the same vehicle that she flew out of, which is the van, and she suffered those fatal injuries. And this is according to the narrative of that crash report. Now, one thing I found very strange and very odd is in the diagram that they put out in the crash report that shows the final rest of each vehicle that was in the collision, right? Being that the Sprinter van and this 18-wheeler was involved. It shows the 18-wheeler, after colliding with the Sprinter van that was in the left lane, which is the fast lane as they're calling it, okay? And after it collides, the Sprinter van is still in the left lane at its final rest. It didn't get knocked over into the median, over into the grassy area at all. And the final resting place for the 18-wheeler after the collision was facing the oncoming traffic on the highway on the opposite direction. So, this right here is very telling that, the guy said, in one video that the driver spoke out and said that, he couldn't stop in time. He came up on the accident too fast to hit his brakes and had to avoid, hitting the Sprinter van. And this is what caused him to go across the median, across the grassy area, and end up right there on that cattle guard, right, facing the oncoming traffic on the opposite side of the freeway. And that might all be very well true, but I find it very suspicious that Jared Wilkerson, driving his 18-wheeler, before he came to the accident on that highway, he didn't see the flashers from the trailer and the truck, right, that had his flashers on. He didn't see her flashers on her vehicle already, alerting people, that was approaching. Hey, it's danger right here. Something done happened right here. Slow down before you get here, right? And here comes Jared Wilkerson, right, out of the blue, just not slowing down at all and striking the Sprinter van, causing, the collision, but it's still final rest in the same left fast turning lane. And Jared Wilkerson is forced to go across the median and, hit the cattle guard onto oncoming traffic before he rested and stopped in that 18-wheeler, right, on the opposite side of the freeway. Now, if Miss Stone was indeed pinned up under that Unit 1, which happens to be the Sprinter van that she was already in, that's very crazy that she was thrown out of the broken window of the Sprinter van only to be pinned under the same Sprinter van, right, causing her fatality. Now, that's very, very crazy. So now that we got the reports, there's no more speculation needed. They come to the conclusion in the investigation that Miss Stone was still inside that Sprinter van. She couldn't have possibly been that woman that Courtney helped off the side of that van. Why didn't nobody get Angie out that van first? She should have been the number one priority. Now, I understand, in a situation like that, is everybody for themselves, the ones who can help themselves. Now, with all those men aboard that Sprinter van, they said that it was evidence of the driver, Lietho, helping people off the Sprinter van after it had overturned. So why come Angie wasn't a priority is what I'm trying to understand here. Why was she left on that Sprinter van last? Because they didn't say nobody else was on the Sprinter van, right, in the Sprinter van, nowhere around the Sprinter van, for that matter, when it was struck by the 18-wheeler. Because a lot of more people should have been hurt if it just happened spontaneously like that. So evidently everybody had to get out the way while Miss Stone was left in that Sprinter van to be taken out. Now, as of recently, one of Angie's close friends, Stone Paxton, who she had looking into her music affairs, her business affairs with her money and royalties and things of that nature. When she mentioned the music industry in that live, and she was saying that she was owed a bunch of money and she don't know what they'll do to keep from paying her this money, right? This is before her death. And she said that she was going to send her diesel crew, right? And Stone Paxton was part of the diesel crew that she was talking about. But it was just ironic that she was mentioning sending a diesel crew, right, after this Universal Music Group record company, and make sure, that they was going to pay her the money she was owed, okay? So it was mighty suspicious that, after she mentioned that she was going to send her diesel crew, right, to take care of the problem for her, the enemy then sent its own diesel crew, right? Jared Wilkerson, allegedly. And it just so happens he was in an 18-wheeler diesel that collided with Miss Stone's tour Sprinter van, right? And this is what caused her to lose her life, is what they're telling us.
Universal Music, Call Me, Keys Join, Kathy Smith Smiles. Yes, sis, get your diesel crew and go tear that. Okay. Yes, I plan on doing that. The music industry is horrible when they tell you that, it's not a straight line, I've been one to kind of play fair. I stay out of harm's way. I can't avoid trouble always, because I'll tell you this. I got a team of people, a diesel crew, that's really trying to help me navigate things. And if I never get it, at least you heard it from me, because I don't know what they might do to keep from paying me all the money they owe me. Okay? All the money they owe me. It's ridiculous that someone has played with my life and my career for this long, for their own benefit. I mean, have you no conscience? There's a special place in hell, just like my girl Selena said, for people like that.
Find where her songs were and help her get her catalog back. I was a part of that team. I've been a part of that team, helping her do that. So that's how my name got brought into the equation, as far as just Angie mentioning my diesel crew, and she's mentioning Stone Paxton and my big brother Basal and the TBC group. That's why she mentioned our names, because we were helping her. We were helping Angie. I was a part of the team, the diesel crew that she mentioned. And it's unfortunate that that particular name she used, if you knew Angie, she was a person of words. She was a poet. Everything rhymed, everything it flowed, everything always made sense with her. Words flowed. So it's just coincidental she mentioned that name and mentioned us as a diesel crew, and then what happened to her. We're very bothered by her not being here. But just so you know, when she says diesel crew, for all your conspiracy people out there, we are the diesel crew, and whatever is in your mind and thoughts, far from that, you guys.
So it's kind of like they tried to mock Miss Stone's death by sending an actual diesel to do the dirty work and get her out of here. Wowzers. Yikes. So y'all get in the comment section and y'all let me know how y'all feel about this one, because, now we have the crash reports. And shout out to Paperwork Party for bringing us the paperwork on this whole ordeal. And Paperwork also pointed out that, they told us two different numbers when it came to the fatalities. They said there was 0 fatalities in the first report, leading everybody to think that Angie didn't die in that crash. 0 fatalities, 9 injuries. And then, with that saying that Angie was just injured. If it was 9 injuries on 9 people on the Sprinter van, right? So they come back and say, well, 1 fatality. Well, you said Angie died in that crash, so it had to be 1 fatality. Now they're saying 3 injuries. Okay, so, that right there was, very confusing. And now we see that they had to go back and change that, because they told us that Miss Stone did die that day in that crash. So do I believe that the TikToker Courtney, who did the video saying that she was on the scene and helped a woman off the side of the Sprinter van, right? Do I believe she was hit by an 18-wheeler? Nah, I don't believe that. I believe she embellished that a little bit more for her own sake, right? For views, engagement, okay? Sympathy, maybe. And this had everybody in the uproar, you guys, because she was insinuating that, this lady she helped made it off the Sprinter van. She didn't die, right? But according to reports, Miss Stone did not make it out of that Sprinter van in time before it was fatally struck by that 18-wheeler driven by Jared Wilkinson of Skidmore, Texas. So until the next time, this is OG Jucario TV with the latest in rap, hip-hop, celebrity, and urban news. You're watching the Rundown Podcast. I appreciate everybody for spending with me. I appreciate all my subscribers for sliding with your boy every time. And say, man, hey, man, keep hitting that like button, keep hitting that subscribe button, and look, turn on post notification so we can slide whenever I get the drop. You already know what it is, man. It's deeper than Buddha, you hear me? And guess what? I'm gone.